What's going on, everybody? Hi.
What's up, everybody?
Did you miss us?
I did. I missed us.
I missed us. Well, come on in the room. My name's Maryl, and I am here with Maria.
Hey.
We are your hosts of the Bold Women podcast.
Hyped.
Welcome,
guys. Thank you so much for listening. We know you could probably pick lots of other podcasts to listen to people's opinions and thoughts, but you're here, and yeah, thanks.
Because ours are great.
They are great. What is my mom? Okay, my mom has a sign up in their house, and it says, I could be wrong, but I'm probably not.
That's a good one.
And I was like, yeah, it checks out.
It's a good life motto. Okay, well, you know what? Let's get right down to business.
Let's get down to the business.
Get down to business. So we're here to talk about another story today. If there's one thing that the Bible is not short on, it is family drama.
Yeah, at all.
So today,
I feel like this one is like over the top. I do not know what I would do if I was in this situation. Like as far as either one of these ladies, like I don't know what I would do.
Today we're going to talk about a couple of gals you may or may not be familiar with.
Drum roll, please.
Rachel and Leah.
Rachel and Leah.
Or Leah and Rachel, however you want to say it. Leah and Rachel's better. It's alphabetically.
Yeah. Well, and because of what we hear.
In alphabetical order.
Yeah. Leah kind of comes first. Leah's older than Rachel.
Yes,
Leah. Leah. Sweet Leah. Okay.
Okay. Well, for those of you who are not familiar with this story, no worries, because Maria is about to give you an overview.
Yes.
A summary.
Basic summary of this is from crosswalk.com. So this is where we just pulled general theme of the story. It does take place in Genesis. So that would be when you open your Bible, like Meryl said, if you're not familiar with it, first book right there, boom, the story is there. So the basic overview of the story is a man named Jacob begins working for Laban. He notices Laban's young daughter, Rachel, and he falls in love with her. So guys out there in the field sees this girl. He's like, I'm about to marry this girl. Falls in love with her. So after Laban asked Jacob what his wages should be, it is noted that Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter, Rachel. So he's basically like, dude, I'll work for free 7 years if I can marry your daughter.
Okay. I know it says he was in love with Rachel, but are we sure? Or was she just that fine?
Also, throwing this out there.
7 years?
7 years of wages. 7 years of waiting for nothing.
For nothing?
Or not for nothing.
Quite the prize.
Yeah, I'm saying like she's the prize. Like, yeah, like that he thought she was worth 7 years of patience, basically.
Falls in love with her. Okay, what
that also being said, here's my 2 cents. I feel like this also should be like, hey, women, if like when a man genuinely loves a woman, he's going to do anything and he'll wait and I could be wrong on that, but I feel like this also kind of shows that.
Yeah, it just brings home the old, if he wanted to,
he would.
He would, girl. And he will.
And he will.
And he wants to.
Will. Yep.
Okay.
Well,
anyway, that was just funny to me. Like 7
years.
7 years. Oh, to be loved by a man like that. Keep going.
Okay, so basically,
I will get all in my feels.
Her dad agreed. It was like, all right. So where he worked 7 years, and once those were over, the father then plays a big switcheroo on Jacob. So Jacob goes and thinks he's marrying Rachel, and I'm sorry, I got off script. I started like just telling the story. I need to stay on script.
Well, you can tell the story like however you want to.
Okay, I'm gonna read it.
Those are just there for.
I'm gonna read it though.
Okay, well, she's gonna read it.
Well, I caught myself starting to, and then I was like, oh, Maryl does words better, so I probably should use what she put in here. All right, so
I didn't even put that in there.
I did?
You're the one that did. At least because I would not say that they did an incredible overview. But anyway, moving on.
So after the 7 years, Jacob, he plays like this big switcheroo. He gives
Laban plays the big
switcheroo on Jacob. Sorry. And instead of giving him Rachel to marry, who is what Jacob wanted to marry, he gives her Leah on the wedding night. So
okay, can we park the car for a second?
Parked. Well, women would have had their face veiled, so he would have had no idea until the wedding night. Typically.
Maybe until the next day?
Well, they probably didn't really have light switches.
Oh, because that's what
Been
I'm
in
saying.
the dark.
So didn't get to see his wife's face when he married her?
When he
Is
married
that what
her,
we're saying?
when he slept with her, none of it.
What? Okay.
So, and
Moving on. Well,
Moving
I mean, okay, I guess it would have been very easy to get married back then.
Yeah. So, like, and I'm sure too that there might have been a piece where Leah would have known that this was a scenario, just culturally speaking, because she was older, that she probably didn't like say much to in order to like not be found out, would be my assumption.
So she's also sneaky. Okay.
I am totally assuming, but
or who knows how much say she had in any of that.
Probably zero. Goose egg. This little got question says darkness could have had something to do with it. When evening came, Laban brought Leah to Jacob, and Jacob made love to her. Or Laban brought Leah to Jacob. So
or until late evening. Okay. Wow.
So like he waited until it was dark to make sure they couldn't see each other.
Heavy veil and ornate bridal clothing.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So he wouldn't have.
Okay. Well, my question's been answered.
He wants me for my body. That's what it makes me think of.
Okay, put the car in drive. We can keep going.
All right. So that happened. So then Jacob is now wakes up. It's Leah, not Rachel. Surprise. So after figuring out what happened, Jacob is then married to Rachel a week later, but only after he promises to work another 7 years for Laban. There are many lessons we can learn from this story, but to me, it's like this emotional undercurrent that like is kind of the most fascinating. Rejection, jealousy, desire to be pursued, all the emotions that are still very familiar with this day. So I think the thing too, and as we kind of get into the story, or as scripture also talks about, which we might not like hit exactly on here, but like Rachel would have been more like known for her outer beauty. And like it said in the beginning, like Jacob saw Rachel and was like, I love her. And then
I love that body.
Love that body. Men have not changed. No. But Leah, they say that she had soft eyes, which is like a kind way to say she was not the most physically beautiful. So
I've never heard that expression.
Really? It's in, I got to find out which verse it's in, but it basically says that. Hold on. Well, okay. Anyways, I'm really curious about that now, but yeah, it's in scripture someplace. Okay. But, yeah, Rachel had a beautiful, okay, this is Genesis 29:17. It says Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. So checks out.
Body. She
Yeah.
got a body.
She got a body.
She got a body yaddy. I won't keep going because I could just sit here and do that all day. Okay, anyway.
All right, so this is kind of like this premise of the story. And I just think I'm like, oh my gosh. I love this. This is from Bible.org. It said, Leah, the woman no man loved, but every woman envied. So what happened kind of into this story, scripture says that God saw Leah and saw that Jacob loved Rachel, not her. And God opened Leah's womb and not Rachel's. So Leah was able to produce boatloads of children.
6 total.
6 total. That's like your family. Mm-hmm. Wow. Just right there.
I got something in common with the Catholics. And I think it's a lack of birth control.
I don't know why that made me laugh so hard. So God opens Leah's womb, but Rachel's is closed. So here is Rachel is loved by her husband and Leah's not, but Leah can give children, which at that time, biblical time, like
that was important.
That was important, and you were blessed if you could. So you were in this spot where Rachel is now jealous with Leah. Leah isn't loved by her husband and is feeling all the emotional pulls from that. And you can actually kind of follow along in the story. And throughout scripture, names actually have a really heavy weight to them. And so the name of Rachel's 6 children, I just kind of want to like put these out here and then we can kind of get into questions, kind of go along her path and her journey of not being loved and her walk with God. So I think it's, I just think it's really interesting. So the names, let me go right here. Reuben, I believe Reuben was the first.
Yeah, I think that's listed in order.
I think it's listed in order. So Reuben means see a son. And like the notation beside it is like she wanted to be seen. Like, look, I gave you a son. Like, see me. Like, this is like I gave you everything you want. And he still didn't see her. The next one was Simeon.
Talk about petty.
I mean, names are important, though. Simeon makes me think of a guy I used to talk to named Simeon. Anyways.
Okay.
All right. Sorry if you ever listened to this.
Do we need to discuss that?
Nope.
Okay.
It just made me think of it. I haven't seen that name in a very long time. Means hearing that she wanted to be heard because she really was kind of like just set to the side. Levi was the third, which means attachment. She wanted to be touched. This one is Yehuda. Judah. It means to thank. Then fifth one was Zebulon, which means to dwell. And then the sixth one was Issachar, which means wages or to hire. So I've done a couple of studies where it talks about like how her first 3 children, she just wanted to be seen. And then by the time she got to her last one, she learned how to kind of dwell with the Lord and be with the Lord. And kind of just showing like the process of how her children's name had changed. So into our questions. Who do you think is, not to say like to blame, but like, cause I mean, this was culturally at that time, people had multiple wives, but what's kind of like your thoughts about how did this story happen between Laban, Jacob, Leah, and Rachel? Like, what's some of your thoughts on that?
I think Laban is the biggest jerk of them all because not only did he just cause like a bunch of strife between 2 sisters.
Oh yeah, and you have sisters too. So you know what that would be like. Well, I'm saying like from the sister side of things. Anyways.
Well, I mean, he's just messing up a family, but then also he like conned his way into getting his older daughter married off, which was obviously a problem for him. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, he got 14 years worth of work from somebody
for free.
He didn't have to pay He didn't have to pay this guy. He got 14 years worth of work for free because of a buy one, get one deal that he didn't even know he was signing up for.
BOGO.
So yeah. Cool. Laban.
Cool.
Yeah. I
do think too. I don't think Leah had a say. I really don't think she did.
I don't know that she did. Well, I don't know that she did either, honestly.
I think
women are property then, so
women were property at that point. I don't think, and like your parents would have, your parents would have decided who you would have married at that time.
Yeah, that's true.
So he probably was like, "Hey, you're getting married first."
But I mean, really, why? I don't understand that. Also, just like you couldn't have found just some other dude and been like, "Hey, you're gonna marry my daughter Rachel."
Not if he was scheming and wanted work out of it.
I guess he was already like, well, here's one idiot who's so obsessed with one child of mine. We'll see what we can do.
I would be curious at like what, and I didn't look this up, but like what a year's wage would have been. And if he's like, hey, I'll work 7, like what, like, I don't know if you call it like a dowry, but basically like what that would have entailed, what he would have been willing to quote unquote pay for her.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just crazy.
What are your thoughts?
I think Leah didn't really have say, Leah or Rachel. And I think what makes me sad about this is like you see, as you read the story, because there's far more to it. Like it goes way, way throughout the book of Genesis. And then literally even like bloodlines are really important through scripture. So we see like how this actually like impacted like generations to come. But I think that, yeah, it just pitted family against one another. And I remember, and this is going to sound sad, and I don't mean for it to sound sad, but it's going to sound sad.
Okay.
But I remember as a young girl.
Oh, no.
When I remember as a young girl reading the story, feeling like I related to Leah. I remember feeling like when I would read it, because of how they would describe her, because of my eyes. Hear me out. This is just honest vulnerability moments.
I haven't said anything.
No, but your eyebrow says everything.
That wasn't even doing anything.
It was low key
up.
up.
It went said, up. Now hear me out.
But anyways, so as a young girl, I felt like I related to her, where I always felt like that was like a weakness of mine. So in looking at that, I feel like I understood why her dad did what she did. Doesn't make it right, no. But I feel like there was like cultural at that time. The oldest would have probably had to get married before the youngest anyways. So I think he was trying to like culturally do something, but still super shady.
Okay, but also question, why does it seem like Rachel is suffering the consequences though? It's like
that's a great question.
Out here minding her business.
Yeah.
Jacob wants to marry her. I mean, it's not like she has a say in
it.
Somebody approaching her father asking to marry her.
Yeah.
And then like just because she's like physically attractive or has whatever it is going on, and then she's the one that can't have kids for a while. She eventually does have kids, but like she has to suffer that for a while.
She is
like that's just strange to me. I'm like,
but I
feel like she didn't really like have I don't know, it's kind of like that was just something that like happened to her.
But I think there was a piece, an element in this story, and I would need to go reread it again, where it was she reminded Rachel that she reminded Leah that she was more loved than her. Like it was like she had kind of carried that attitude. What, sisters are that way towards each other?
Seriously, yes.
Believe it or not.
They are. Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know.
It seems pretty severe.
It's extreme.
It's just
do you, I guess kind of, I know I mentioned like my childhood, but which of these two women do you, Maryl, relate the most to, and why? If you had to pick.
I don't know. I guess I would also agree that I could relate to Leah probably more. Mm-hmm. Just in the sense that like, I don't know. I often lived life, especially when it came to men and dating and stuff like that. Like, just like overlooked.
Yeah.
Often. Yeah. And, yeah. And then it was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's just something I can relate to. I don't know that I really want to expand too much.
No, you're okay. You're good. Well, I have like, there's this overview note.
Like, I know that feeling. Like, just, I mean, probably also not thinking a lot of myself to begin with, but then like just always kind of just noticing things happening for other people around me and then it not happening for me. And then.
Or like not thinking highly of yourself and then seeing that, like it just piles on.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, or it confirms what's going on in or it feels like it confirms what's going on in your head. Like, I'm already feeling this way and now I'm seeing this. So it must be true.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially just like, since my divorce, like being single again, like that's, I would say just like that situation has kind of made me relate more to her story, I guess, more to Leah than Rachel or whatever. But, yeah, cause
I put here in the overview, like just note of kind of like this overarching story of how do we fix our eyes on Jesus when we feel like Leah surrounded by Rachel's, and kind of that idea of like when you feel overlooked and everybody else is getting everything or everybody else has the promises that you want. And I know we've talked about this like in wilderness seasons of when you're in them and you look around and you see like people getting fought for, people being pursued, and you're just like, I'm here. Hello. Where it's like, Or you see, promises happening for everybody else, and it's...
What were we saying that in the episode when we were talking about bridging the gap, and it was like, I'm over here snapping twigs.
I'm snapping twigs. Do you see me?
No, they don't.
They don't.
But I think that that's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, oftentimes, like, what I go to, I guess, when I think about that, because I'm the type of person that would love to just... and not love in like a good way. It's like, it's just a form of punishment where I would entertain a bunch of negative self-talk about feeling overlooked and not feeling chosen, not feeling pursued, not, like, and then turning that to like, well, what's wrong with me? Or what did I do wrong? What is it that I am doing that is preventing my own self? Like, like trying to even get introspective about it and being like, okay, what is it in me that's not healed enough that I am like still for some reason I am not seen?
Yeah.
Or like, what is it that I, like, what kind of box can I check to, like, what kind of thing can I do to earn favor, to earn favor so that my blessings can come to pass? And it's been really challenging to think of, to like change that perspective from like, this is like being in this season of waiting is not a consequence of my actions. And it's not a consequence.
That's huge.
It's a time of separation. And yes, it's used for healing, but also it's like, this is a huge and important time for character development, is to prepare for the next step. As we've talked about, in wilderness seasons, that is like a huge thing, but it's like, it's really important in those seasons that you are not seen.
Yeah.
Because at the right time,
if you are seen, it could cause,
who knows,
so much more damage.
Well, maybe it just throws things off, but like, at the right time, it's like, that will happen. And it's, it's a whole testing phase as well of that. So
I always think too, like if Jesus had to be tested in the desert, like who are we to think that we won't be?
I mean,
granted his was not to say like only 40 days.
It was a long,
but that's a long 40 days. And he had no food or water. And then he came right for who he was. And that's a whole nother story we could cover on another episode, but
yeah, it was reading. What did I hear? There was some reel of a message that I heard recently where it was talking about that, where it was like, it was talking about the difference of being tempted and being tested. And like Jesus was tempted and tested. He was tempted by the devil. It had to do with, I'm trying to remember the name of the pastor, dang it. It's going to escape me, but it was basically like, you are tempted by the enemy to bring out the worst in yourself. Mm-hmm. Like the enemy tempts you to bring out the worst side of yourself. God tests you to bring forward the best in you, to check and see how well developed that is, how well developed those things are.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it was so good. I can't even remember. I did see
good.
that this morning, but I was like, I can't remember who the pastor is. Yeah, whatever. It'll come to me eventually, it'll be way after this recording.
Wait for that.
But yeah, that was
that's good.
Yeah, really.
Or just and I think too, I go to James, where James is like my favorite book of the Bible, and like just where it says like the testing of your faith produces patience, and like sometimes I'm like, Lord, I wish that making our faith stronger doesn't require patience and testing, but that's the formula he gives it for us. Like, oh, you want more faith? Cool. Let's go through patience and testing.
I don't think you know what you're asking for.
Sign me up.
But
here we are.
But since you asked for
it, let's go. Okay. What, is there an ache in your life? This is going to be a little deep.
Well, I like deep
questions.
Like
deep questions. Is there an ache in your life, or what ache in your life threatens to overtake joy you could receive from all of your blessings? Because I think too, even in the midst, I feel like we can learn something from Leah and Rachel too. Like,
yeah,
even though Leah wasn't loved by her husband, God gave her like children. And at that time that was like, you are a blessed woman if you have children. And then, you know, Rachel's like, okay, she was loved, but she couldn't bear children and she was miserable, even though she had the love of her husband. Mm-hmm. So I think we can kind of look at both scenarios and be like, what can we learn about like contentment from them both? And that. So is there an ache in your life that threatens to overtake your joy?
Yeah. Yeah, there is. I think it's probably, you know, you can relate to this one pretty well too. And I think that my incessant need to be in control.
Yeah.
What did we talk about today with that?
Oh, we were that freaking
that stinking reel I sent you
yes.
earlier. I was like, okay, let me just pull it up really fast.
Pull it up because it was so good.
I was like, oh my gosh, ow, this hurts. Like, I can't believe I saw this. But it was basically just somebody had posted, like, my therapist said, the reason why you self-sabotage is because it allows you to predict what is going to happen, which is giving you the illusion of self-control.
Yeah.
Like,
sheesh.
And yeah, and I say control, like the incessant need to be in control. That is every area of control. That's like me needing to be in control of myself, and then also trying to control others around me, trying to control or force outcomes. Yeah. Like that is something, I don't know how I picked that up. I don't know where I picked that up when I was younger, but that is something that is really, man, I have really been having to chip away at over the past few years, just really, really struggling with the idea that, that I'm really not in control. Yeah. Well, and it is, incredibly disturbing and unnerving for me to think of something like that like I just don't necessarily have control over anything. We literally don't. I mean, I have control over my own behavior, I guess. I have control over my responses to things.
That's it.
But that's it. All. That's it. That's all.
Well, I have like a similar, and I tend to recovering people pleaser, still tend to fall in it frequently. But realizing too, the root of that is still control because of, which is, it's ugly and I'm throwing it out there and I am aware that that is what it is because it's like, you want to control someone's view. You want to control, their perception of you. You want to control how they're viewing the situation. You want to it's literally still rooted out of this element of like, I'm out of control. So if I can please you, then like I'm
if I
still
do something good, if I do it right, I know that like that's going to make you happy and it's going to make you perceive me in the way that I want
to be perceived.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. It's ugly and it's gross and I admit it.
Yeah, and that's a very
we're getting better though. Only 37 years later. I guess, can you count when you're like a baby though? Because like you don't really know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, we were born with sin, so yeah, I might as well start there.
Anyways,
but yeah, it's
a heavy. Well, and I think it's one of those, especially like as I tend to be more like not say like an empath, but it's like if somebody feels a way, like I feel like I feel it too. Like if somebody's upset,
that is an empath.
That is an empath. Like if someone is upset, like it shakes me to my core. Like I can feel it. I'd like to brush it off. I'm like, it is so hard for me.
That depends on how close I am to the person.
How close I am to the person. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Because sometimes I'm like,
yeah. Okay, if it's people super close to me, or if I feel like someone super close to me is upset, especially if they're upset with me, it is like gut wrenching. Anyways, yeah, working on it.
Yeah, dude, that
was a heavy revy.
Yeah.
Wow. What do you, okay, so I know you mentioned the names earlier, and do you think that, and I highly encourage everybody to go read this story because there is so much more to it that we just don't have time to necessarily go over on this particular episode because there's tons of ins and outs, tons of like conversations between each other. But yeah, because like even thinking too, like the first one she named Reuben, and it's like, look, it's a boy. This is a sign, she said, that God has seen my misery and a sign that my husband will now love me. Like that was her cry out for her first child. Like I want my husband to love me. And But I know like how many women are in that spot too, where they're just like, I just want my husband to love me. If I could just be something, if I could be enough. So maybe I guess I could throw this question in there. Like, what do you say to the women who don't feel like they're enough? Well, what do you say to them? Or what?
Well, first of all, right there with you.
Yeah.
That's something I've struggled with for a really long time. Just, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, that's a very valid feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's what I would say is like, that's valid. It's okay to feel that way. But like, you can't sit there. That's something that, that just working on like my own like negative internal like dialogue is like, okay, you can allow yourself time to think about these negative thoughts that you're thinking and kind of just sit in them for a little bit, really feel them. And then you can kind of start to dissect it a little bit. Okay, well, why is it that I'm feeling this way?
Yeah.
But you can't stay there. Like that's the most important thing. You can't stay there. And so, there's no way that you yourself can make you feel valuable. So you have to seek that in your relationship with God, because he's the only one that is going to be able to show you in ways that are specific to you.
Yeah.
That you are valued and that you are loved, that you are enough. Because that's something I have to ask him all the time is like, I'm going to need you to show me this because I'm feeling insecure or whatever. I'm just not feeling it. I'll go through seasons, some are longer than others, where I feel that more than other times. But you're not going to find it in yourself. So you're not going to be able to
you're not going to be able to self-help that one out.
Yeah.
You really aren't.
Yeah. You can read as many books as you want and you can do whatever, meditate, but really your value is going to come from the one who made you. And that's through Jesus. And so, yeah, it's going to be a matter of having a lot of conversations with God.
And I feel like,
and sometimes, and I'll probably just quickly say that a lot of times it's going to feel like you're talking to a wall. Yeah. Because it's just going to be, I mean, at least that's been my experience is when I'm sitting 100%. In those feelings and I'm talking about that sort of thing.
Well, what did I send you today? It was a reel and I thought it was really good. And was talking about how like sometimes I feel so close to God and I feel like I hear him, but most of the time I don't. But that's actually when he's really close, because at that point is where we have to use faith.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to use faith when it's like, oh, I feel him and I have all the goosebumps and I had the emotional experience and like the presence of God was there. It's like, cool. My faith is, he's here.
I tell you, the goosebump type thing, that is
few and far between.
I was going to say that has been so not my experience.
Few and far between.
Yeah. God.
I feel like most of mine is the prayers and then trying to listen and trying to hear and thinking that I do and then not sure and then going and then trying and praying some more. And then this element of trust and faith where it's like, when you don't know what else to do, you still keep standing. Yeah. And like, that's where faith grows.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good.
So
really good. Let me see if there was a question I was going to ask you.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
Oh, how about this one? What do you think about Jacob's continual trust in God's presence and protection and how that helped him deal with Laban's deceptive actions? Like, can you, let's look at this from Jacob's perspective for a minute. Because
poor guy.
The tendency is to focus on Rachel and Leah because there's a lot of pettiness between the two of them, over the years, which is natural. And I understand that. And I don't think anybody can blame either one of them for the way that things shook out. Like thinking about Jacob and just like being deceived by somebody like that. And but then still going, okay, God, I'm just going to, I'm just going to keep going with this. Can I still have the other one? Like, what do you think about that?
I think that there's this piece of like, he really wanted Rachel. And hear me out, because even after he got Leah, he had to work another 7 years, but he got Rachel 1 week after. So it was like, hey, dude, he got to marry her in just a week. It wasn't like he had to work another 7 years to get her.
Right.
So maybe if it would have been that, the scenario would have looked a little different. And I think at that time too, multiple wives were just such a common thing that I don't know if it maybe held the weight that it did necessarily as much as it did for the women, as it did for the man. Of like, oh, okay, cool, I just had another wife.
Another mouth to feed.
Right. Who's supposed to handle these emotions?
Yeah, but I mean, I can't imagine. I can't imagine, you know, that's really like setting things off on the wrong foot with your in-laws. Like, right. I'm going to marry into this family not once, so I might as well just take the other daughter. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in business or married to or anything. I could not with somebody who did that to me.
Well, I'm even thinking of if I had a sister, I would not want to share a man with her.
Heck no.
You know what I mean?
No.
Heck no. Like you are literally asking for World War III.
My sisters and I all have incredibly different tastes in men. That would be good. So strange. I would be so very upset if I. Yeah.
Have you seen those things about, okay, this is creepy. There's some things out about like identical twins that marry each other. Okay. So it's like a set of guy identical twins marries a set of girl identical twins.
Oh.
So then when they have kids, their kids are technically identical twins, but they're cousins.
Yeah.
But genetically, they're siblings.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah. I have one of my aunts is an identical twin.
Really?
And I always thought of her sister as like, well, she's not really my aunt because she's not the one that's married to my uncle. But technically, she is my aunt because they have the same
DNA.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you call her aunt?
No.
No? No. Okay. Okay. Do you say, I know I just said aunt there, but I usually say aunt. We grew up saying aunt, not aunt.
Or auntie.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, my mom's from the East Coast, so I heard aunt, and then my dad is from freaking southwestern Iowa, so he says all kinds of amazing things. Dad, I know you're hearing this, but we really got to work on your pronunciation of wash. It's not wash. There's no R in there, sir.
No R. No R.
Yeah. He chastises me about my vocabulary sometimes.
Well, your vocabulary is great.
A Drake education got you. Got you that vocabulary. And I'm like, yeah. And what happened with, I mean, you're a pretty educated man and you can't even pronounce wash correctly.
That R gets you.
There's that for you, Dad. Okay, we're off on a tangent.
Oh, you're good. Okay. Question for you. How do you hold on to faith when everyone around you seems to be receiving their promises?
This is the hardest one.
Yeah, I'm asking it to you.
But a long time ago, a good friend of mine told me to stay in my lane. Wiser words have never been spoken. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, Nicole.
Shout out to my friend Nicole. She was very smart. She was probably would die laughing hearing this right now if she heard me saying it. But
makes me think of the commercial where it's like, stay in your lane, bro.
Yeah.
I forget which insurance one it is, but it gets me every time.
It is, but anyway,
yeah.
It was essentially just you really can't be looking at everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably been like, I would say as time goes on and as you mature and things like that, that is something that improves over time.
Yeah.
I guess that comes with maturity. But it's, yeah, you really just can't look at what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Because what other people are doing is what other people are doing. And like, it's best that you just stay focused on what you're doing. And like,
well, it's one of those things too. I think we see blessings, but every blessing has a flip side too. So it's like, take kids, for example. Oh yes, I want a family so bad. But what we don't see are like countless sleepless nights. You don't see like now, like arguing over who's going to drop the kids off, of like things you don't have to go through because you don't have kids, and vice versa. Like where there's people who have kids who see people who don't have kids and they're just like, oh my gosh, I would love to be able just to like go do whatever. And so I think like every blessing has like there's always a flip side to the coin. So if we keep judging on only one side of the coin, we're only getting half the story.
Right. And I think that's a mistake that some of us tend to make, is that when we see other people being blessed or getting their promises come to fruition, that somebody else's promises or blessings are punishments for us. Mm-hmm. And that's just not the case. Like, everybody's just on a different timeline. And that's something I've struggled with before. Mm-hmm. And I think that I guess in the area of control, it's really kind of one of those things where it's like, I have no idea what's happening right now in my life. Like, to be incredibly honest with everyone, I don't know where this is going. But I feel like sometimes there's just too much going on, that it's like you have to kind of let go of some stuff, because it's like I can't focus on what other people are doing, because if I'm not focusing on what I'm doing and what God wants me to do, then I'm going to be in even worse shape. And I'm already at a spot where I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Like, so, I don't know. It's just better. Sometimes you just can't focus on everything. And I think there's a good reason for that. So
I know in our last episode, I had talked about, how like for probably like 2.5 years post-divorce, I felt like it was really hard to hear the loving voice of God. And I think part of the reason for that is because I was starting to look at others, and this is going to be ugly, but it's like honest truth, and like get so incredibly judgmental of like, this person's doing X, Y, Z and I'm not, but why do they get what I'm believing for? And so it was like this wrestle of like, God, I'm doing everything. This is that control piece. If I do it all right, then A, I won't hurt. B, I can get my promises. C, I'm basically trying to manipulate the hand of God. But like, I would start to look at, like people who I felt like weren't like, not to even say living. I don't even know the whole scenario, but like, I know like I would have handled that situation different, or that situation, the way that this person's handling that doesn't really feel like it looks like Jesus, but you would just feel like they were just covered in grace and they were getting all these things, and it would be like, why God, like, what am I doing? So I think like that, just, you cannot look at other people. You cannot. And then it gets the whole, like, you just get judgmental and all those things. And that's not God either. Like that's wrong.
It's the wrong perspective to be looking at people like in that way.
Yeah.
I think the appropriate way, and this takes time too, because this has taken a lot of time, because over the years, and it's like I said, it's with years and maturity and things like that. And I'm not saying I am the epitome of maturity, because I am not, but like something that has matured me is shifting my focus from that perspective that you just described to one where it's like, no, I'm visibly watching God work in somebody else's life. And if it's possible for them, then it's possible. He can answer them for me too.
Yeah.
And it's okay to celebrate those things for people. And like,
100%.
He put these desires in my heart, and he has promised that he's going to come through with it. And so I'm watching that play out in other people's lives. And I need to be celebrating that in other people's lives, because eventually I'll be celebrating that for myself one day.
Love that.
So
100%. This was on a Google search about the story. And I just think as we're wrapping up, this is kind of interesting. And it says Rachel was favored, but she didn't end up, this is like some interesting things where Rachel was favored by Jacob, but she actually didn't end up getting buried in the family's tomb, which was actually a place of honor.
Rachel, what'd you do, girl?
Leah did. So even though Leah was not necessarily loved and she was not wanted by her husband, at the end, she was still buried in a place of honor with the family.
I do kind of wish that there was, okay, so sorry to interrupt you, but it's like, okay. She wasn't loved, but it seems to me that eventually she was. Like, her relationship with Jacob obviously changed.
I think
and
it did get
between the two
better.
of them, because A, of where she wound up getting buried, and B, you know,
they had 6 kids.
That quote that you read, well, they had 6 kids. I mean, so something was good. But that quote, Leah, the woman no man loved, but every woman envied. And well, he obviously appreciated her enough
to put babies in her.
Well, to put babies in her, but also,
I mean, for real.
But I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. It just seems like, I don't think she was like disliked forever.
No, one I think that just kind of even talks to like how love grows, like true genuine love.
Yeah.
Isn't just necessarily like.
Yeah, they had to work through a lot.
They had to work through a lot, but it's actually.
Can you imagine being a sister wife? No.
I know. Okay, I'm side note, true confession. That show, I get sucked into it so fast. Sister Wives?
I need to start it over, even though, I mean, I've watched parts of episodes, but I think that man is so unattractive. 100%. I just can't even imagine why you would sign up for that.
I cannot. Well, and then what's interesting is like some of them weren't. So some like were brought up in polygamous homes, so they were used to it. But then like the youngest one wasn't. Like he basically like talked her into coming into a polygamous family. I'm like, nope.
How does that even work? Okay.
One and done. Anyways, but
yeah, no. Okay.
Yeah. Lots of good thoughts from the story today.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
No, you're okay. Well, I was just thinking like, so Leah was buried with the family and then Rachel was favored, but she didn't end up getting buried in the family's tomb. Located just outside of Bethlehem along the road to the forefather that connects Nablus and Hebron. Rachel's tomb is where the Jews and Muslims believe their foremother Rachel was buried. So they believe that she was buried outside of that. Leah died sometime before Jacob. This is according to Genesis 49:31, and she is thought to be buried in the cave of the patriarchs in Hebron alongside Jacob. This cave also houses the graves of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, which in biblical like history are like biblical forefathers. So just seeing like that's the place where Leah was buried, like that's just weighty. And sometimes I think too, and this is just another thought to tag on to the end. Like, I think sometimes we get so like earthly focused that we don't realize that life truly is eternity. And so sometimes I think we look at promises here in the short term and we think like, God, where are you? What are you doing? When it's like, oh my gosh, we have the rest of life, like in eternity for God to meet promises and God to do things for us. Just seeing like if she's buried here in this lineage is like not only, not only was she blessed with children, but she is literally in this lineage and buried by where like all the forefathers of Christian faith are. And that's just pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts about Rachel and Leah? What you thinking?
Leah's probably like, yeah, so how about that, Rachel? You might have had the body, but I got the tomb.
That's what her tombstone said.
Yeah.
Got it.
Here lies Leah, quote, got it.
Where you be, Rach?
Here lies Leah, the only quotation. Where's Rachel?
Where you at, Rachel? All right, guys. Be sure to check out our website at www.boldco.studio, where you can learn more about us or stream episodes if you don't have a preferred platform you use already. You can email us with thoughts, questions, or comments on this topic, suggestions at info@boldco.studio. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate, and leave a review where possible on whatever streaming platform you listen to us on. And finally, this one, guys, give us a follow on Twitter at BoldWomenCo, and we are on Instagram. Yeah. This is our favorite one at boldwomen.podcast, and we are on YouTube at Bold Women Podcast. So talk to us. Send us messages, comment on it. We love to talk back and get to know you guys. Yeah. We love y'all. Thanks for listening.
Bye.